The season is nearly here and I couldn't be more excited, so today I want to look at the players with the best chance to win every single award. So if you guys like the content, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and let's get into this. Let's start with easily the least talked about award, and that's Sixth Man of the Year. It's a weird award in the first place, but going into this season, there's a very clear two-man race. That's between Jordan Poole of the Warriors and Tyler Hero of the Miami Heat, with right now Poole sitting as the slight favorite at 4-1. Before we go further, you can have your own personal opinion, but that's not what today's video is about. These are the actual Las Vegas odds. But even with me saying that, I already know I'm still going to have comments saying, no way you think this guy has a better chance than that guy. Now it's clear to see why he's the favorite. He's going to play over 30 minutes a game. He's going into his fourth season where he's ascended into being one of the top young guards in the league. This past season, he averaged nearly 19 points a game. I think there's a real chance he breaks that 20-point mark this season. The main thing I can really see hurting his chances, though, is actually being a sixth man. Last season, due to injuries throughout the year, he actually only came off the bench 25 times out of his 76 games. That can't happen if he's going to be in the running. Tyler Hero was last year's winner, and it really wasn't a competition. Only starting in 10 games, he averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists as a 40% three-point shooter. He's coming into the season with 6.5-1 odds. It should be close between these two, assuming they have the role that we expect. But that's really the thing with this award. We see big changes in roles every single season. There's a real chance Hero sees more time in the starting lineup, obviously drastically affecting his chances at this award. Now, while these two are the clear favorites, there's definitely still some other guys I could see jumping into the conversation, the main one being Malcolm Brogdon of the Celtics, who's sitting at 14-1. Brogdon really interests me going into the season, as I really think as long as he can stay healthy, he will thrive in a competitive scenario like the Celtics. When we last saw him in a similar situation, he was legitimately one of the best role players we've ever seen, being a solid defender while averaging 16 points, shooting with crazy 51, 43, 93 splits. Over the last 3 seasons, he's had a much more ball-dominant role where he really got to show what he can do as a playmaker, but now he's back as a non-top option, most likely coming off the bench. I think he's in for a really impressive season that again could put him in the running for this award. The last 2 guys are at 16-1, that being Bones Hyland and Jordan Clarkson. It's extremely tough to see Hyland competing, just given he's still pretty unproven, and with guys like Jamal Murray coming back and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope added in, I just don't see a scenario where he can put up the box score numbers necessary. Someone that definitely can is Jordan Clarkson, as he's already won this award before. Now there's a couple things going against him. For one, it's hard to project his role, as his team looks completely different and expects to be one of the worst teams in the league. Plus, he's coming off a pretty disappointing season to say the least, where he shot just 42% from the field and 32% from 3. Then we have Defensive Player of the Year, which is probably the most boring award going into the season, as it's typically the same group of guys in the mix. But with that said, we did have a player, Marcus Smart, last season surprise a ton of people, including Vegas, by taking it home. Now this season, Vegas isn't really expecting him to make that same run, as they have him at 14-1, tied for 6th, with both Anthony Davis and Mikal Bridges. It's no surprise to see who sits at the top at plus 425 or 4.25-1, and that's a 3-time winner of this award, one of the best rim protectors to ever grace the court, Rudy Gobert. Now part of the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that struggled defensively for nearly a decade, Gobert really has a chance to prove his worth, something that's been pretty polar since the massive trade package the Timberwolves gave up to bring him in. Coming in right behind him is Bam Adebayo. His case is pretty clear. He's going to be a part of one of the best defensive units in the Miami Heat, and he's going to be the anchor of that group. Given his versatility, he's the type of player that should be in the running for this award in today's game. Not guys that get lost the second they get switched onto a less ideal matchup. He's sitting at plus 650. Just behind him at plus 700 is Robert Williams. Again, like Adebayo, Williams is going to be the anchor of one of the best defensive teams in the league. While I definitely think he should be considered one of the top defenders in the league, especially at his position, it's tough to imagine him winning just given the other great individual defenders on his own team. After him is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis just might be the best defender in the league, but I think we all know voters are going to have a hard time giving it to a guy that's also averaging 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. Right now, Vegas has him at 9-1. Then lastly, at 10-1, we've got Draymond Green. It's been well reported his defense is really the glue to this Warriors dynasty, but with him getting up there in age and struggling to stay healthy for a full season over the last few years, it's hard to see him competing. Things get interesting with our next award, Most Improved. This award historically is by far the hardest to predict going into this season, and for obvious reasons. Typically the odds start at like 10 to 1, but there's actually a pretty big favorite this year. That's Tyrese Halliburton, and I would have to agree. This one's pretty simple. In just his second season in the league this past season, he averaged 15 points and 8 assists, but once going to the Pacers after the deadline, he went up to nearly 19 points and 10 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 42% from 3. Voters aren't going to be looking at his team splits from last season. They're just going to be looking year over year, with Brogdon out the door and Halliburton just naturally expected to be improving. Given this is just his third season in the league, I think it's safe to have him as the clear favorite. But after him, there's a clear second in odds, and that's another player from Tyrese Halliburton's draft class. It's actually the #1 overall selection, Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I think everyone is expecting big things from Edwards. The talent is undeniable. The only thing that I think could be holding him back is the fact he's already coming off a pretty solid year, where he averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. But then again, I thought the same thing with JimmerRange, but I do think they are in a much different scenario with guys like Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell taking up big pieces of this offense. I think it's going to take Anthony Edwards going to something like 26, 27 points a game. If he can do that, I think the award is his. He's at 11 to 1. Then we go all the way up to 18 to 1, where we have our next player, Jalen Brunson. Now this one I don't really get. Brunson's definitely a quickly improving player, and he's joining a new group in the Knicks, but I don't really think he's jumping into a much bigger role, nor do I think he really has that ability to exceed something like 22 points a game over the course of the season. The next guy in odds I also don't get, and that's Zion Williamson. Sure, we're expecting big things from him, but the last time we saw him, he was an All-NBA player averaging 27, 7, and 4. What are we expecting that would somehow put him in the running? It makes zero sense. Now the next player does kind of fit the mold for a winner of this award, and that's RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett's a weird player. He's got all the talent in the world, he's improved his box score numbers every single season, but every time he raises his volume, the efficiency tanks. If that changes this season, I definitely see a world where he wins, but in my opinion, I do really think it's going to come down to the favorites, Halliburton or Edwards. If it's not one of those two, I think it's going to be someone that no one's expecting right now and is nowhere to be seen on the Vegas odds. Then we get into the big awards, or at least the most talked about awards, starting with Rookie of the Year, a race I'm super excited about, but not nearly as excited as I would be if Chet Holmgren didn't go down with a season-ending injury. I really think he would have evened out the odds a lot, but with him out of the picture, there's a clear favorite in the eyes of Vegas, and that's the #1 overall pick to the Magic, Paolo Banchero. He's actually the biggest favorite of any of the awards, sitting at just plus 180, the next closest being plus 550. Now it's pretty clear why this is the case. For one, he's an elite talent, but the biggest thing in terms of this award is that he projects to put up the best numbers. Some guys have great long-term outlooks, some project to bring a ton on both ends, but Paolo projects to score a lot of points, and well, that matters the most for Rookie of the Year. Now by no means is he one-dimensional. Playmaking is actually one of his biggest strengths, but I'm still surprised to see just how big his lead is right now. The other top 5 selections that will be playing this season are all tied for second. You've got Keegan Murray of the Sacramento Kings coming off a dominating MVP run in the Summer League. Something that doesn't have a big correlation to rookie success, but nonetheless was really impressive. Coming in, he already projects to be 3rd in touches, behind Sabonis and Fox, so it's hard to see him competing with a guy like Banchero. But with that said, after what I saw in the Summer League, I'm not going to rule it out. Then you've got Jabari Smith, who actually really interests me in terms of this award. It was a rough Summer League, but again, it's the Summer League. He's an elite prospect that right up until the end looked like the #1 pick in the draft. He's going to a garbage Houston Rockets team where you expect to see the ball a lot. If the talent is on display early, he has a clear path. Then you've got Jaden Ivey, one of the most exciting rookies in this class that's teaming up with Keith Cunningham on what projects to be one of the best young backcourts we've ever seen. I expect great things. I think he's going to fit in beautifully. I think his impact is going to be felt on both ends. But as we've said, this is a very statistical award, and I just don't see him getting there. After that, we take a big jump to Benedict Mathurin of the Pacers, who's at 11 to 1. I would like his chances a lot more if Hield was moved before the start of the season, but even if that does happen, it'd be a massive surprise to see him compete with some of the talent at the top of this draft this early in his career. After him, you go all the way to 20 plus to 1, where you've got the rest of the lottery selection, Sharp, Daniels, Davis, all guys that could shock the world, but it's just really hard to see a scenario right now where it's not a top 5 selection. Then lastly, we've got the biggest award of them all, Most Valuable Player. Now to no surprise, this projects to be a close race once again. Right now, Vegas thinks there's a clear top 3, and at the top of that list, you've got Luka Doncic for the 3rd year in a row, now sitting at plus 450. It does really feel like this could be his year. The biggest knock for him, and why I'm surprised to see him at the top of this list, is just the simple fact that the Mavericks don't project to have one of those top 3 seeds in the West. But then again, that narrative has been really beat up recently with guys like Westbrook and Jokic winning without top seeds. This is a guy that averaged 28, 9, and 9 last season. The stats are gonna be there. The Mavericks finished with 52 wins last season, and I don't think they got worse. Yes, they lost Brunson, but they got Christian Wood and have Hardaway Jr. coming back. I think it's the safest choice. Just behind him at plus 500, you have Joel Embiid, that assuming he's healthy, would be my pick. He's going to be on a top team in the East in the 76ers. He's going to dominate on both ends, and he's coming off a season where he was in the running all year, with him having the best season of his career offensively, averaging 31 points on incredible efficiency. He also won't have to deal with voter fatigue, like in the case of the player with the third best odds, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's at plus 525. We all know how good Giannis is. He's won this award twice. He just averaged 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists, while being arguably the best defender in the league. If the Bucks finish as the top seed in the East, it's going to be hard not to give it to him. So those guys are all around the same odds. We have to jump all the way to plus 900 before we see the next player, and that's Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's going to put up the numbers. I think there's 2 big things standing in his way. 1, this Nets group just being healthy enough throughout the season to finish with a decent seed, and then 2, sharing the court with Kyrie Irving, who's also going to be putting up impressive numbers. That's a reason that a lot of the big names struggle to enter the running, LeBron, Kawhi, but it's definitely still possible. Right after Durant is the winner of the last 2, Nikola Jokic. He's going to have a great case. His numbers are going to be ridiculous. With Murray back and an improved roster overall, the Nuggets should be pretty good. It's just hard to see 3 in a row. Voter fatigue is a real thing. The next 2 guys are tied at plus 1200, and they really interest me. That's Steph Curry and Jason Tatum. It's pretty simple. They're both the best player on teams that project to be one, if not the top seed in their respective conference. Despite the age creeping up, Curry shows no signs of slowing down. I don't think the numbers are going to be a problem. I don't think the team is going to be a problem. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get the games played in. Jason Tatum, on the other hand, would be my pick based on the odds handed out. The Celtics are the odds-on favorite to win the title, and Jason Tatum is the face of that group. We forget, he's coming off just his 5th season in the league. He's gotten better every single season. He's going to be a difference maker on both ends and likely put up an efficient 27 to 30 points a game. If the Celtics are the top seed in the East, I think he's going to win it. After that, the odds shoot up really quickly. JimmerRange is 15 to 1. It's hard to see, as I just expect some serious regression from this Grizzlies team as a whole. LeBron's at 18 to 1. The team and games played are by far his biggest hurdles in the way. Then you shoot up all the way to 30 to 1, where you've got guys like Booker, Kawhi, Trae Young. The only one that really interests me in this area is just a dart throw is Zion Williamson at 35 to 1. Everyone's seen the pictures. He looks to be in the best shape since entering the league. As we talked about with Most Improved, the last time we saw him, he was an All-NBA player. The numbers project to be fantastic, and I really think the Pelicans are a much better team than a lot of people realize. They made the playoffs this past season. CJ McCollum was a huge addition. Ingram is going to get better. Herb Jones is going to get better. Jonas Valanciunas is still there. Anytime you add a player the caliber of Zion Williamson to what's already a playoff group, you've got to be excited. Do I think he should be one of the favorites? Absolutely not. But I do think 35 to 1 is pretty juicy. But that's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.